Today we have Joe Davis with Brandon LaHue with Nextiva to discuss a true omnichannel communication platform with an all-in-one technology stack. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Brandon, quick check, your audio is working?
Yep, I'm here. We're good to go.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, guys. I know on a lot of these trainings, you probably get slide showed to death, and I promise I don't have a single slide. As Brandon is in the same camp, so and early, you're welcome for that. As mentioned, we'll do questions at the end, but you can start adding them in the comments or the question section throughout. The last time that we presented to you guys, we talked about where our company had been 15, 16 years in the unified communication space, primarily in the SMB into mid-market, lower enterprise. Our relationship with reselling Five9, and then now how we have to offer through acquisition and innovation, 3 different CX products. A lot of our partners are using it as 3 different entry-level conversation starters into CX projects with their customers. For today, we're not going to talk about the overarching technology as much as I wanted Brandon to come on, as he recently won a great size deal that has potential upside for more business with one sub-agents and with Greg Stiff on the team. And so I am going to kick this off directly to Brandon. What was the backstory on the deal? What was the Nextiva history going into it? And how did the partnership with Claris help us in the opportunity?
Yeah, of course. They're a business-to-business firearms distributor, sells from major manufacturers to local gun shops, mostly across the United States. And when they came to us, it was a direct deal initially. Partner was not involved, Claris, nobody. And they came to us in September. At the time, we had a couple of realignments here internally, and I picked up the deal in, I think it was December 1st, right around there. I was able to set up a meeting with one of the CTOs, Matt. He was my primary contact. He had some experience with Nextiva before. So we had a great in at that point. They were currently on a Natterbox system, which I hadn't dealt with a lot in the past, but they were having a lot of issues with inability to coach and train sales rep to really ensure they're touching on specific items, specific guns that they're looking to push. That was one of the big reasons they came to us. Plus, they were living out of Salesforce. There was just a lot of things that weren't working for them. And getting right into it, setting very firm guidelines on what the next steps were. Quick discovery call. Then from there, go into getting a solutions consultant to build out an entire demo environment, just match exactly what they're looking for. Like I said, we had a really great in here. There wasn't a whole lot of competition at the point. They did look at a couple other providers, but they didn't like how they navigated it, how they presented the solution. That was really it. With that, then we come to end of December. And the whole timeline here was February 2025 was the close date. We were able to push it up to January with the help of Claris. That's really what it came into. Claris came into this. Greg was a fantastic value add. He was very knowledgeable in a contact center solution. And with that, Bradley and Greg, they had relationships with another person at the company, the CFO, which was supposed to be the very difficult person to work with. From there, we got through all of the statement of work, the contract, and everything was looking great. Then our biggest hiccup came down to contract with the CEO. He hated contracts. He would not do a contract, but we can't do something like this on a month-to-month due to all of the language that needs to be in there for contact centers, usage, etc. Really working with Bradley and knowing Bradley and Greg and knowing when to push and when to pull on them and try to move things up, we were able to get the deal closed in January, a full month ahead of schedule, mostly because the partnership was coming into play and we worked together. That was really, it was a cooperative thing. It wasn't like they were trying to steal the deal from me. I wasn't trying to steal it from them. That was really it.
Yeah, a couple key takeaways for me. We've talked a lot about how I've been with Nextiva almost 1 year. I know, Brandon, you've got me by like 25 years here at the company, but that's fine. One One thing that I have really liked that not only we have put in the resources of developing the correct sellers and the correct channel folks here to lean into our partnerships, but it's a pretty regular process if a partner were to come to us with a relationship inside of a deal, even if it's at a completely different person or a different perspective inside the account, we are regularly pulling in partners into these deals. Like Brandon said, we had a direct relationship from inside the customer, but Clara's coming in. Another thing I've learned in 10 years of working in contact center and CX projects, the more you can multi-thread, the more different relationships you can have inside, the more successful it is. And that's a really quick turnaround, talking about maybe a February close date, really kind of accelerating in December, but being able to close this thing inside of a month or so. That's incredible. And I think the key is we had a relationship at one C-suite level. Claris came in with a relationship at another. A third C-suite person came in to try to throw a wrench in the deal, but together we were able to overcome and go with it. Now, I don't know much about Nannerbox. Is that what you said, Nannerbox on the incumbent technology?
It was a Natterbox. I hadn't
Natterbox.
really run into it much either. They had a direct Salesforce integration, which they didn't even want to live out of Salesforce, but that was their choice they had to be pushed into at the time when they made this decision a few years ago.
Yeah, and you mentioned not a whole lot of competing technologies in the deal, which again helps with the timeline. Personally, I've seen a lot of deals, even when there's not competition, um, one thing or another drags the thing on, but being able to really bring that in. Talk about again the value of what we were able to bring, kind of the why Nextiva purchase. That way we can understand, or the team on the call can understand, hey, there was a great value prop. This is what we were able to offer. This is what made them comfortable in deciding to go with us, even with kind of a question on how to do the terms. And I remember we were pretty flexible on the terms with this customer.
Yes, we for the term specifically, we were able to make some out of the box kind of recommendations with the annual review clause. We're willing to work with the customer and be flexible. Like you said, flexibility is the biggest thing here, and being able to pivot when you need to. Knowing when to push, when to pull. But the collaborative and co-sell, a true co-sell with the partner where we were working together, that's really what won this opportunity. The solution itself, the technology behind it, they
Yeah.
wanted a lot. They wanted outbound calling campaigns. They wanted text campaigns, AI transcriptions and summaries. Everything they mentioned right off the gate, it's something that can be included with our service. But just knowing that it's included doesn't really do much. It was really
Mhm.
building the value behind why what we're giving them is going to increase their productivity. Productivity
Sure.
was their biggest thing they cared about with this opportunity.
Awesome. About the overall scope of the deal. Talk about the license types, maybe a general idea of how many licenses there were, and then because I know there's probably people on this call that are thinking, if this was the MRR of the deal, I could have made some money off this. Talk to me a little bit about what did we sell? How much of it did we sell it? What did the dollars look like? And I think we talked about it's a 3-year term with kind of some annual checkpoints to quote unquote renew or to come in. And then just talk to me generally about, I guess what the deal looked like from a contractual standpoint.
Yeah. So this opportunity was $4,700 about, and monthly recurring revenue. It was a mixture of UCaaS licenses, base users, but the real big focus was on the contact center side of things. We have 3 different levels of contact center licenses. They went with the middle tier professional, as the higher end one includes workforce management, which isn't something they were really interested in, but it's something
Yeah.
they talked about scaling into in the future. So there is a future revenue growth here with a higher
Oh, great.
level license and growing that team. As they see the productivity that they're able to do, they're going to be able to enhance the number of distributors that they actually work with. The overall contract, it was a 36-month contract. We were actually looking at doing a 12-month contract at one point, but that didn't make sense for anybody with pricing going
Yeah.
up. The annual review clause was what helped win this opportunity for sure. Was there any other specific things I missed on, Joe, that you just
No, I don't
mentioned?
think so.
Okay, great.
I know that you mentioned earlier, and I remember the communication. Talk to me about the communication with the partner when it came to kind of some sticking point, because there was some back and forth on on the terms. There was some back and forth with the language there. Just give me an idea. I mean, Greg and Brandon,
Bradley.
correct? Bradley, sorry, you're Brandon. You're Brandon and I'm Joe. Greg and Bradley. It's too many names for me. Talk to me about the communication, because we were really working to pull this in as quickly as possible between us and the partner. Just talk to me from your perspective. I know you deal with a lot of partners. How did this one feel?
It was how it should be done, I should
Okay.
say. The way that we communicated is as soon as Bradley and Greg were brought into this opportunity, all communication with the customer, whether it be the CFO, the CTO, the CEO, all of them, we were all in that email thread and up to date. And we would have multiple meetings and or quick calls offline, just the two of us, or
Right.
the three of us, I should say, to game plan and come in with the correct strategy. I would say every day or every 2 days in the last 2 weeks of coming up to it, communication was absolutely key in getting this deal moved up a full month ahead of schedule.
Love it. And you mentioned the original deal around 4,000 MRR. There is upside on the license upgrade for the WFM, and then is there also a component where we're adding licenses potentially in a second phase?
Yes, of course. This is all starting out with the sales team is using the contact center, and then they have their office workers, administration users using the UCaaS side of things. We talked about briefly about how workforce management could help them. It's not a phase one thing, but that's not an
Right.
issue. Scaling up to it, adding on, increasing value of the account. Additionally, they were looking at growing their team from let me double check here, 40 contact center users up to 60 over the next year.
Great. And you said WFM is a phase 2. Are they currently using WFM?
They were not using anything with WFM, but what we
Makes
bring
sense.
to them at the table during the initial discovery calls is the art of possibility, what you
Sure.
can do, but then scaling it down, scoping around their current needs and fitting into their current budget. That's
Yep.
what we have to do, and it worked out exactly to a T how it should be with processes.
So we sold them what they needed today, and then we've talked about future technologies that can continue to add value between the partnership.
Precisely, and knowing
Okay.
that the future value is there was really what got this across the finish line as well. The idea that we're going to be their last communication provider. You're never going to need to look at anybody else because we're always innovating, always growing. Products, everything in the landscape changes. We can all think back to 10 years ago. What we're doing now, completely different. I know I can
Love
say
it.
I've been here 6 years. I'm not doing anything I did 6 years ago.
Right. Constantly varying, right? The only constant is change. So awesome, Brandon. I appreciate it. I know that we were given a full 25 minutes. Brandon, any closing comments as far as the deal or why we won or anything like that that you haven't already covered?
Um, Not really. I think I covered everything. I would say the main takeaway from how we can work with any partners out there is it's the collaborative communication.
Yep.
If I've worked multiple deals with other partners that want to try to wrangle the deal away and lead the charge, but they don't know enough about the solution at that moment to be
Mm.
they know enough to be dangerous and hurt
Mhm.
the deal a lot of the time. But us being able to communicate offline without the customer, that was really the key. And this is why this partnership worked out so perfectly.
Love it. Communication then. Communication.
All day.
Yep. And I know a lot of the team that's on here was at the Louisville Tech Summit when we had, I was on a panel. Zach Chambers did something on not only a panel, but a kind of a show and tell demo on our brand reputation and social media piece. And then Thomas Gorney, one of our co-founders, did the keynote on the first day. So a lot of you have seen the different products that we have to offer. Love that this was a deal, not only that we were able to offer multiple of our product suites and kind of have a mix that was right for the customer. But again, Greg and Bradley came in, I think, with the perfect relationships, the perfect timing, so that we could get this thing worked out, taken off the street, and won on behalf of Claris and for the Nextiva team. So thanks again to the Claris team for helping us on this one. We can cut this thing short. We really wanted to talk specifically about this deal, and I promise no slides, and I'm not going to bring one up. Brandon,
I
it
do
looks like
see a
you
bunch
have.
of questions coming in here
All
right
right,
now.
let's look at
So,
them.
yep, I'll start at the top one there. Biggest competitors for Nextiva for CCaaS. I would say the biggest ones we run into are probably going to be Nextiva, or sorry, not the Ring Central, um, TalkDesk, and Dialpad. Those are probably the three biggest competitors we run against. And where we differentiate from them is that we are, it comes down to the actual implementation process and how we're very defined in the next steps, and we take the time to do it. A lot of these competitors, say Dialpad, for example, that I've run into, they promise something to be up and running in 2 weeks or 1 week. Often I hear back from the customers that things are rushed and not properly done.
Scoped.
It's not scoped the way they need to. It's not implemented properly, and they have a lot of issues. And they wish they would have gone with us, but then they're locked into a contract they can't get out of. So it's something we'll be looking at taking back from them a few years later. Um, those are probably the biggest competitors there. Is there anything else you wanted me to elaborate with the competitor side of things? And I'll move
I
on
think
to the
for
next question.
my
Go ahead.
my opinion on the CCaaS is, to Brandon's point, we do compete with who he mentioned. You know, we had a 3 almost 4 year history of reselling Five9, and so in those deals, we saw more of the enterprise players. Right now, the place I think where our contact center stands is probably mid-market into the lower enterprise. My guess is we'll probably start attacking up market, probably calendar year 2026. And so I think those are probably fair competitors. To Brandon's point, though, I would always be wary of trying to stand up a contact center as quickly as possible. The size does not mean it's more or less complex. I've sold 20-seat deals direct in my past life that have been just as complex or more than a 200, 500-seat deal. It doesn't mean, and a lot of times on the smaller side, you also see there's not a whole lot of full-time employees on the customer side that are in place to deploy. So that sometimes can be tricky. Someone asked, what exactly is WFM? Sorry, there's a lot of acronyms in what we do. Workforce management. So it's typically a partnership between the contact center vendor. We partner with some industry leaders. We do the most with a company out of Texas called Community Workforce Management. And it is online scheduling. It's taking a lot of data that lives as a contact center as to how many agents should be scheduled and when, and helps taking the scheduling out of spreadsheets and into a more intuitive, data-driven approach. It helps the contact center because when you get into a size that can afford and really can see the return on investment on a WFM, personally, in my opinion, you're looking at 50 to 100 contact center seats to kind of start WFM making sense. You need a pretty big data set for it to make sense, but you're able to schedule, you know, in 5 minute increments, in 1 minute increments, depending on how big it is, because the time they're paying the agents, they want to get the biggest value as far as being able to answer interactions.
Yep, 100%. And I thought about other points for the competitors that you brought up, Joe. I sold Five9 here at Nextiva. I've actually sold a few of those deals. And one of our biggest differentiators is that our solution is a modern, scalable solution that we own. It's not a piece together solution. Five9 specifically pieces together all kinds of different pieces of, this product, and it doesn't really talk well to each other. Having a one solution, one base dashboard, that's really key. Five9 did not do that. I know one of the other things, TalkDesk, is what RingCentral's high-end contact center was being used for a while. Their relationship soured because RingCentral was trying to piece together these solutions again. So
Right.
I just wanted to touch on that one more time.
Robert asked, do we follow the customer periodically to make sure they're using the service best and especially best for their needs? We have dedicated groups and dedicated account management and customer relationship managers for each account once we have gone through the full checklist of implementation and deployment. So once service delivery is complete, Yes, customers are aligned with, typically if you go mid-market or higher, they have a dedicated person. There's a pool of representatives for the SMB or very SMB base. It's our customer advocate group. But they will have, yes, dedicated personnel, not only, hey, do we need to add licenses? Do we need to make any moves, adds, or changes? But are you continuing to see value in the service that we've already sold you? And how can we, maybe tweak things if possible? So yes, absolutely.
Yep, and I can add a little bit more to that too. Throughout the entire implementation process, after they're done through implementing and using the service and porting their numbers, we keep them in implementation for another, I think it's 60 days, just to ensure there aren't any tweaks that want to happen. So we take that extra step beyond just cutting them off, they're done. We follow up with them to make sure. And with many of the contact center deals that I've closed in the past couple months, annual review clauses are pivotal. And that's where once per year we meet with them to review the service to make sure everything is working as should be. And if we need to make any changes or scale up from there, such as the workforce management add-on.
What's the ideal customer profile for a contact center? Also, what probing questions should we be asking? My recommendation is always when you are doing secret shopping or when you are prospecting customers or when a customer comes to you and says, hey, we might have a deal, an opportunity. Don't get caught up in the words contact center specifically, because I think 50% or more contact centers that you can sell licenses to, don't call it a contact. Hey, we don't have a contact center, we have a help desk. Hey, we have an outbound sales team. We have all of these different things. I always ask questions to my prospects as if I am the customer, because I feel like they have an easier time opening up and giving me, real answers. If I'm a customer of yours, how do I get in touch with you? What are the reasons? Also, I would encourage every single time you think you're prospecting or calling someone that there might be a contact center opportunity, call the number yourself, chat it in yourself, do everything you can as if you are a customer. From an ICP standpoint for contact center, once you think that there might be an opportunity that there is contact center, I always say from a partner perspective, you want to be selling into customers that have a full-time employee that will manage whatever you sell them. It's not a certain number. There's not a, hey, will you sell under 20 seats or will you sell more than 20 seats or what is your basement there? It's based on when you sell the technology, whether it's Nextiva or someone else, do they have someone on full-time employment at the customer that will do the moves and changes needed and the training, or will they be calling you to do that on their behalf? And I think as you prospect and try to win new business, you want to be doing less of the tier one support on behalf of your customers. Brandon, maybe you have a different perspective, but mine has always been, it's not a certain number. It's that there's an employee that's going to take it and go with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that precisely. I mean, probing questions and looking into finding contact center deals, finding out how they communicate with the customers, the current state, different media streams,
Yep.
Talk about live chat, talk about SMS, talk about web, email, talk about other ways that people are communicating. They're probably not doing it. They may not be. They might not even know about it.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
My free prospecting tip of the day is if you're prospecting contact centers in your area and you're not Googling contact center jobs in St. Louis, Missouri, or Louisville, Kentucky, or Indianapolis, Indiana, or Greenwood, Indiana, I mean, there's your answer of who's hiring, because if they're posting for jobs for contact center, one, they have a contact center, and two, if you're watching it every week or every couple days and it's the same company, then they also have a hiring problem and they have problems retaining people. And sometimes that's technology based and sometimes it's processes based. But you guys are in a unique position that you can probably help out with both of those things.